Hello, everyone, and welcome back to No Bull with Nobu, the All-American Shaman. Nobu, how are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me, brother.
Thanks for being here as always. What are we going to talk about today?
Chakras and energy centers.
All right. I think I've heard that chakra translates to wheel. Is that true? Could you
Yes, in
maybe
Sanskrit.
describe, go ahead, in Sanskrit?
Yeah. Yeah, and wheel in Sanskrit, and essentially, if people just conceptualize at these different points within their body, these discs or wheels, vortexes that are spinning clockwise or counterclockwise, depending on what's going on. And then they have different correlations in the body with different endocrine systems, different functions, different emotions, different aspects of life, in addition to their location. So it's a combination of reflecting down onto the scientific and denser levels of physicality, and then also reflecting upwards onto spiritual aspects as well.
So they seem to be like a connection point between the energetic body and the physical body. Is that fair to say?
hmm
And
Yeah, I
how
would
many
say
chakras are there?
so depends on your school of thought. For most Hindu people who are the chakra model, contrary to popular belief, is not only found in Hindu or Sufi culture. The Incas in South America have chakras. There's Siberian shamans who have knowledge of the chakras as well. Maori in New Zealand. So it's not just a Hindu thing. They have different words for it, but we'll say energy centers, and they follow the spectrum of the rainbow. Again, from red where I'm at right now and upwards into the other frequencies as well. Um, yes.
So maybe we could start at the bottom. So that's the root chakra, right? And that's
Mhm.
red. And then can you take us up the spine, I suppose? Is that where you
Yeah, and
travel?
I don't know the exact vertebrae, but it starts off with root at the base of the spine, then we go up towards whether it be the prostate slash ovaries and uterus area, the sexual glands, svadhisthana, the sacral chakra, orange. Then we go up to the solar plexus, yellow, Manipura, the seat of the will or the ego. Then we go to the heart, Anahata, the heart chakra, green. Get your chlorophyll. And then we go to the throat, Vishuddha or Vishuddhi, which is a light blue for speaking and for manifestation. Again, it's also why I think my pain necklaces are so powerful, because they're protecting what goes in and also what goes out. Good filter around that chakra area. And then we go to the third eye, the ajna, which is like an indigo, not like a deep purple, but still like a purplish blue. And that's the mind's eye, or the ability for psychic abilities. And then we go to crown, top of the head, the crown chakra, sahasrara, which is emptiness or void, and it's the connection to the divine. That can be a dark purple or a white. And like I said, there's many different interpretations. Some shamans and cultures have 9 chakras. If you really want to get down to it, you could technically say there's thousands of chakras in the human body, because there's so many different, Chinese medicine shows the meridians and where these different energies intersect. So wherever these different axes intersect in any way, a chakra or a wheel or vortex forms. Similar to like a whirlpool within a stream, of where there's like conflicting, you know, this stream of water hits this one, then it spins and then it funnels down. Same thing with the body, all over the place. But the primary ones, for the sake of today, we'll do 7.
Hmm. Yeah, so many different thoughts and questions. So like the spin, like what's the significance of that? Is that almost like kind of what holds the matter together to form effects or form the body?
The spin, like whether it's clockwise or counterclockwise, I found, again, just so many people are different. I don't buy into like everyone's chakra needs to spin clockwise or counterclockwise. No, like it's there's a different phase for each time of life. Like I found for myself that when I'm into a more um output phase in terms of creating things, whether it be poetry, music, fields, etc., that my throat chakra is spinning clockwise, and I'm putting out more energy. But
Hmm.
when I'm being more quiet and I'm doing a lot more consuming than producing, that it's slower and it's going counterclockwise. Um, I have my own theories on why chakras spin differently, like whether it be for a purge cycle or an integration cycle, and then how strong people are in their different chakras is also going to have a direct correlation with everything about their life. Again, whether it
Mm.
be their physicality, someone who's more root chakra dominant in red is going to generally be more physically bolstered. They're going to be a more physical person. So if we think about the Chinese Empire with their red and yellow, they were really capitalizing on the seat of physicality and wealth, and then the seat of the will and the ego, the Manipura. Whereas in the Roman Empire, the philosophers wore purple, or a lot of royalty historically throughout history have worn purple, which the British weren't, I don't, to my knowledge, weren't conscious about chakras. But again, there's this intuitive knowing with these things that purple is going to connect you to the divine and it's royal. So these are the ones that, are messengers between the gods. Same with a lot of priests as well.
So in your shamanic work, I imagine you utilize the chakras or check in with them. Could you talk about kind of what role they play in your healing practice?
Yes. So it's a very one of my services I offer are scans where I scan people's chakras from bottom to top and I go into a trance state. I don't need to see the person, I don't need to hear them. I just need to like know my target per se to get a lock and I can go from there and scan. And things I'm looking for is like how luminescent it is, how fast it's spinning, what the overall strength of it is. I can also detect like what animal spirits are present within it or need or trying to be expressed. So again, everything gets really gnarly because just like a totem pole, we're not just one. We just don't have one totem spirit. There's a combination of them, and how you could have two genetically identical and by proxy as well, astrologically identical people, and they could have different animal totems, and they could be in different orders too. So the amount of combinations and possibilities for how these things manifest is huge. But then
Mm.
again, if someone's stronger in their root chakra, we can expect to see them be more, in their primal states for feeding, fighting, effing, and, the primal states of being, where someone in their svadhisthana, their sacral chakra, orange, is going to be more, emotional, expressive. It's also sexual. So more of that like passion, less of that raw primal sexual energy, but more of that like sensual behavior. And so
Mhm.
each person's own unique strength, each person's own unique expression of their chakras is furthermore going to have a cascading effect on their aura. Because just as the chakras go between low to high, our aura, these different chakras manifest in our aura between red, closest to the body, to orange, to yellow,
Mm.
etc. And those are different levels of the body. So we have it, you know, the physical, we have then the physical layer of red root chakra, then we have the emotional layer of Manipura, orange sacral chakra. Then we have the mental layer of the Manipura. And I can't remember the rest off my top of my head right now, but it goes upwards into the chakras, which then have an effect. Because again, our physicality is the densest form of energy, and it's
Mm.
not matter, right? Science has already established, particle waveform theory is really what a particle is, just capturing that being at the right frequency of perception to where it appears to be solid. Like right now, and technically also these my hand and my other hand aren't even touching. Right
Right.
now there's just different particles and waves and fields that are just like polygons in a video game, just not allowing them to render through.
Yeah, like all the empty space in atoms, it's like 99.9% empty space. So like when things are actually touching, it's more of the electromagnetic repulsion that's really stopping your hand rather than like hitting the other particle. Can we talk about if someone is predominantly in one chakra or has that energy stronger in one particular chakra than the other? Is that something that you're kind of born with? Does it evolve over your lifetime? Is it something that you can kind of actively work to, say, balance or exaggerate one or the other?
Yes, to all and all three come into play. So your own genetics and karma are going to play a factor in this, and then also what sign you are. So I would say
Mm,
not always, but generally speaking, your Aries and your Tauruses are going to be a lot more strong in the root chakra, where Sagittarius is like myself tend to be sometimes like half and half, because the centaur is half man, half philosopher and bookworm and nerd, which I spent the first part of my life very much in those upper chakras and the schools of thought and mind. But then later on, I developed the more bestial lower earth chakra elements of myself. So
mm,
there's influence from your own DNA and history and karma, and also your totems as well. And then you can also develop your chakras by doing different practices. In yoga cultures, there's probably over 1,000 sadhanas or ways or pujas of ways of, developing them in different capacities. You can utilize frequencies, whether it be tuning forks. You can use light as medicine. You can wear colored glasses as well to shift your perception and resonance of reality. What
mm.
what foods you're eating, essential oils, crystals, stones, and over time, and then the choices you're making, too. You know, you're I I wish I had an aura camera, but I'd be willing to bet if I took pictures of Mahatma Gandhi compared to Donald Trump, for example, I almost guarantee you that we would see 10 times more red in the aura of Trump compared to Gandhi. I wouldn't, because also too, Gandhi wasn't very physically built, whereas someone like Wim Hof, who's still like a really master meditator and definitely someone who practices mindfulness, he's a more stocky individual, but he's also not engaging with that same upper chakra. Because again, once we go above the heart, we're going more from getting that the denser physicality of things and more to the emotionality of things and the
Mm.
spirituality of things. So
So is it really kind of like the, say, the user's choice as far as like if they want to be balanced across all of them and have them like kind of equally being expressed versus having one be more um, like one stronger than the rest?
yes, it is user's choice in the sense of like where you're at with your chakras in terms of whether they're balanced or not. But it's just as much of your choice as terms of what your hair color is and what
Mm.
family you were born into. It was more of a higher self choice, right?
Yeah.
Made by the summation of your previous incarnations. So on that note, in Inca South American culture, there's an eighth chakra above the crown, and it's Wachachoma. And that one, again, isn't attached to the physical body. I would say it's probably their version of a silver cord in terms of astral travel. Something that goes to your
Mm.
higher self and is for eternity. But, so when you die, it's not connected to your physical body, and it goes on to then, but whatever, again, it's kind of like acting as that cloud storage for the rest of your chakras. So when you discard this body, that it's taking, so whatever
Oh.
patterns that you brought through this life,
Mm.
whatever traumas, whatever gifts, etc., you're going to have a predilection towards those things. And again, the lesson will continue until the teaching has been learned.
Yeah. Now I've heard a lot about like cleaning chakras, and I was actually on that cartoon Avatar: The Last Airbender, and they had that's the scene where he goes into the little cave with the old man and the pools, and he has like the leaves, and he like knocks them out of the way. Can you talk about that concept as far as keeping chakras clean?
So if we sit with different types of negative energy, or again, I know the word negative in itself can have a lot of negative connotations, or people be like, well, that's bad. Like, I just want to avoid that. Understand that from a Jungian perspective and also a yin yang model, and understanding duality and non dualism, that just because it's negative doesn't mean that don't shame yourself for dipping into those waters, right?
Mm,
People like Mike Tyson to develop, like, you'll never know what savagery and brutality it took to make someone that peaceful and that calm,
mm,
right? So like for me, like I didn't always have the open heart chakra. I was completely callous. I didn't have empathy. I didn't feel the emotions of others. I didn't have regard for the life of others. And so going through that karma, going through that negative aspect, the tail side of that coin, allowed me to have contrast and perspective now onto where I'm at. Because again, just like when people are born into money, they don't actually value it or appreciate it because they don't know any different. You know, someone
Mm,
who's just grown up their life free of sin or mistakes, lessons, doesn't understand or can't have compassion or empathy for people who do terrible things because they haven't been there. They don't understand the weakness of their own flesh.
mm. Yeah, it kind of reminds me when we talked about like the strength of your container is determined by the trials and hardships that you go through as a person. So if you weren't exposed to difficulties, then you probably don't have the capacity or the container to hold that space or really understand others that have been through things that you can't really relate to. So as far as like if you wanted to clean your chakra or keep your energy centers as open and free flowing as possible, do you have any shamanic recommendations as prescriptions for doing so?
Humming is the biggest one that I like to recommend people because there is no consumerism involved with it. It's free. It doesn't matter where you're at, who you are, what your culture is, you can hum. And then that's where, again, if you just research into singing, you know, like singers will say, oh, that they're using their head voice or they're using their belly voice, you know, as you learn, because the human body is, again, a musical instrument. Just like any instrument, for example, the bigger a drum, generally speaking, the lower its tone going to be. If we look at the alto, the soprano, the tenor, the baritone, the bass saxophone, we can see that with the larger it is, the deeper it is, and changes its pitch. Or the difference between a small piano, a baby grand, and a huge one. So
Mm,
when we understand that, just as sound shapes, everything else, going back to the previous of morphogenetic fields and morphofields and cymatics, sound shapes things. We can see that how the chicken and the egg scenario is like, well, do I have a deep voice because I'm big, or am I big because I have a deep voice? Like,
mm,
because I remember as a teenager around like hitting puberty, I started to get made fun of back when I was like a freaking, emaciated little dude. Like I was tiny and I had this, deep, like sound like rocks falling on the side of the hill. And I didn't physically resonate and match what was coming out of my mouth, right? Because if you would have heard my voice on the phone, you're like, well, this like little teenager's like a savage. And then you see me, it's like, oh, it's a freaking Poindexter. So in my personal experience, I can see that I had to grow into that voice that I
mm,
was, but I've also seen it where people with testosterone and DHT and steroids, that their voice changes and their physicality is matching that, right? They're becoming more androgynous and more masculine. Another feature of this we can see in nature is neoteny, or neoteny, Neoteny. For example, mice have really high pitched voices, they're little squeaks, and it's very hard for us and other beings, whether it be cats or canines or lupine foxes, for us to figure out where the energy signature, the sound is coming from. It's much more difficult with that smaller, it's almost like God and Great Spirit have a plan. And then whereas the elephant or the tiger or the bear have that low, deep voice
mm,
and sound. And that's very easy for us to hone in on, right? When the high pitched screech of a missile is coming down, that Doppler effect or mortar round, you don't hear it, or the cracking of a bullet, it's like you don't hear it till it hits its lowest pitch. That's where you're able to actually pinpoint where it's at. But when it's going at a higher frequency, it's hard to locate it. But anyways,
mm.
I know I went off on another tangent there, but
I liked it.
the I like to illustrate to you and everyone else that there's so many different intertwining and dimensions and layers to this, that it's
Hmm.
when we talk about the music and the magic and the chakras and the different frequencies, that it's not just something present within woo woo. This carries over to nature. This carries over to dating life. You know, we can see again the patterns of how females and humans respond to different vocal ranges, you know, in terms of pickup game. We can see how even with, there's a channel on YouTube that has different frequencies posted for different metals and different items on the periodic table of elements. Like there's a sound that correlates with gold. There's a
Mm,
sound that, and then these things all match up in terms of how they interact with this matrix. So when we can understand it and apply it for our physicality, again, just like in humming, if you want to strengthen your root chakra, focusing your energy when you're toning as low as you can in your physicality towards your root chakra. See how my voice just, it's not like it got deeper. There's a, I'm resonating like I'm plucking the guitar strings in a different way, lower on the fretboard. But if I go up here into my upper throat, into my sinuses, my voice completely changes, not only in pitch, but also in its demeanor, right?
right, right. So it's like you can kind of direct your humming practice to the coordinates or the area of the body of the chakra that you may feel has some gunk in it, and then kind of like shake it up,
100%.
directing that energy there. Very cool. Yeah, it also like reminds me. I mean, Om is a sound in yoga, like relating to the hum, and then kind of like use that in a lot of the mantras, and that's always to me has kind of been connected with you know, like in the Bible, with the word was God and was with God, and kind of God created the universe from sound. So it makes sense to me that the simplest and maybe most effective medicine is just making that sound that would kind of reflect or imitate the sound of the creation of the universe. So it's like, okay, my physical form, my body is maybe not feeling great. What created this body to begin with? Sound waves for resonating from the Big Bang. So maybe try to tap into that energy. Is that a as you kind of see things as well?
It's an accurate representation. Again, there's multiple things can be true at once and 144 sides truth, and that checks out. Also, fun note, what do people say when they're looking for the next word to say?
Yeah, yeah. Like in the little cartoons, they put like the thought bubble, and you're like thinking with hum, like like I wonder what that could be. And then if you hum long enough, I feel like you just you just get it.
Yeah.
You figure it out. Tapping into that. I don't know. Would that be part of the egregore, like we talked on the previous episode, like tapping into this like higher level of information above our species?
Whether you want to call it an egregore mass, you know, subconscious mind, or a different frequency or different field, but like for example, someone like Nikola Tesla, you know, was operating at a very high frequency almost all the time. So they're able to tap into and they see things from a different angle, or angel, EL of light. That's
Mm,
electric. L is electric. So different electrical frequencies, just like you said, like humming, like almost like tuning your receiver on a radio. You know,
mm,
before they had the automatic search function, you had to scroll it and get it just right, so that way you could get in, or tuning an instrument, you know, same thing. And then once you're in alignment with that frequency, you have new notes that can be played, and you're playing in different keys again. So that's a good way of also looking at the chakras in the human body and the personalities as well. It's like some people are playing their guitars of their human body and their chakras in C standard, and other people are playing in C sharp and B flat, and you know, there's so many different variations of the universe. One verse is in the verse of a song, so the one song that is all of
mm.
us. There's so many different, you know, songs being played in different frequencies.
Yeah, yeah. And when you mentioned that like, someone like Nikola Tesla is operating at like these kind of higher levels and maybe more from like his crown chakra or whatnot, that kind of got me thinking like, oh, people might describe him as like not being grounded. Is that like when we talk about grounding of, you know, being barefoot on the earth, does that tie into the chakras? Is like, is
Mm-hmm.
that what is ultimately being grounded, is like that kind of energy? And then I guess, is there benefit or risk of living out of one chakra versus others?
Good, excellent question. So there's another chakra. Again, I said I'll go to the 7, but Soul Star chakra, excuse me, associated with 174 hertz, is about 12 inches below the feet, and it's usually the color black. And that is enabling one to be grounded. And as far as grounding goes, like I talked about how with Bufo, it's important that you be grounded. And for my work as a shaman, if I'm constantly going into these, and this is why, again, like you're great as a co-host for this, is because you are more grounded than I am. So when I'm bringing these far out ideas, you know, you're able to bring them down, distill them in a way that most people, grounded people, can understand. And also, too, when we look at how most people eat, most people in Western society are eating a lot of more meat and denser, lower vibratory foods than I am. Doing a juice fast in and of itself seems freaking crazy to most people. And then being able to, one of my favorite quotes is by Euripides, or is it Diogenes? Talk sense to fools and they will say that I am foolish. Or again, truth is just a frequency. So again, if I'm talking up here in my crown chakra, like Nikola Tesla, or if I just freaking smoke Bufo and I have like these massive downloads, it seems freaking bonkers to most people. Again, if I'm just even the heart chakra and talking about loving thy neighbor as thyself, and having compassion, or hey, how about we don't kill the animals? That seems freaking crazy to people who are living in the root chakra. And conversely, it goes both ways. For me, where I'm at now, to see people exhibiting the behavior and patterns that I did when I was, again, lie, cheat, steal, kill, in the root chakra, as I think it was from the second episode, I made it very clear of like who I was before. I get it. I've been on both sides of the coin. I've been in the upper chakras, at times primarily like heaven, and then earth. It varies, and we all have individual cycles. And furthermore, I want to illustrate one thing I've noticed in my time, like analyzing people in relationships, is that I would say, for example, people who are operating in their throat chakra and wear a lot of blue or have blue eyes, or will find themselves like, that's me. And I invariably find myself allured by the woman in all red, or who's into her money and nice things. Whereas that's not where I am, because again, opposite values complement each other. Contradictory values also need to coexist. So it's kind of like, can't live with him, can't live without him. So, or again, there's been many monks and ascetics throughout history who've just like captured the eye of someone on the complete different energetic realm as them, because there is also that like infatuation with which one is not. It's also where you have multiple genders, and
It's like the yin and the yang. If you are like super far in one direction, you're seeking like a ballast or counterbalance to your own energetic field to maybe make you a little bit more stable, perhaps. So you mentioned with yourself being able to tell if your chakra is spinning clockwise or counterclockwise. Maybe first question would be like, how? How are you able to tell?
So just like almost everything else I do, it's been self-taught and self-developed through just practicing, meditating, becoming awareness. One of my recent coaching clients, I just gave him a different task each week of just fixating his awareness on 1 week for 10 minutes every night before bed on his root chakra, and then his sacral, and then his solar plexus. Because again, where attention goes, energy flows, and you can't shoot what you can't see. So I love night vision, and you can't heal what you can't feel. So like when people aren't even aware of their own pain, right? When people aren't even aware of their own self-destructive patterns, they can't fix it. They can't change it because they're not aware of it. That's why awareness is so key. Same thing. It's like people aren't going to be able to interact with their chakras if they can't even observe them. And they can't even observe them if they're not even aware they have chakras in the first place. So again, this is where the educational aspect is important, because not all of us are living life like Aang, the last airbender.
Unfortunately. Well, I guess fortunately. I don't know. He seems to have a lot of stress. A lot of the weight of the world on his shoulders. So like the approach would be to come into like a sort of calm or meditative or mindful state and just maybe like visualize the space around the particular area, like where the chakra is, like you're mentioning the roots at like the base of the spine, and then there's a heart chakra and throat chakra, so just kind of like bringing your mind's eye to that area and just kind of seeing what comes up.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. You see him comes up and like everyone's different. Some people will see in, the black of their vision, they'll see different colors. So they'll see red, they'll see orange, they might even see their own spirits at play within these different archetypes and energies. Whereas for me, when I scan someone, I go into a trance state. And I usually use rattles for scans. And I just, I assess everything. And I'm like, the rattle rattles are usually used for dispersing energy. But for me, like a rattle is almost like at times I'm putting out this like static of the rattle into the air. And it's almost like an ability to like echolocate because it's a very consistent. I can modulate it very consistently and kind of like the snake flicking his tongue, sensing the environment, and I can figure
Right.
out like where the energies are and like how they're interacting based on the feedback from what I'm sending out.
Interesting. And maybe what are like some symptoms, if you could describe, if there are like common ones of like having blocked up chakras versus having clean ones?
So again, going back to the negative aspect of things, if someone who is in a healthy state with their svadhisthana, their sacral chakra, they're going to be coinciding it with their throat chakra, and they're going to be, which also forms a perfect fifth in music, like C major. Um, they're going to be taking that sexual energy, that creative life force, and then channeling it and moving it to create things.
Right.
Whereas someone who is lacking purpose or lacking an outlet for such things can easily fall into, because again, what's the opposite of passion and purpose? Well, we have hedonism and we have debauchery. So people who are just engaging in, a lot of excessive drug use, almost in my experience as well, as far as the sacral chakra, any drug ending in INE, whether it be nicotine, caffeine, ephedrine, methamphetamine, they
Mm.
negatively affect that chakra. Um, but so you're going to see different expressions in terms of those different energies. So someone who is in a very open, clear state with their crown chakra, could be connected to Christ consciousness and or Buddha, Krishna, what have you. All is one is all, sort of like egoless state. Whereas someone who's in their crown chakra but it's muddied and gunked up might start falling into like the most super ego state of all, where they are believing like I am God, like that they are like the only God, like monotheistic figure, and not
Mm.
recognizing the divinity. They're getting it halfway, right? They're
Right.
not. They're one person in the healthy crown chakra is recognizing that yes, like I am God, I am great spirit. Spirit runs through me, and the spirit runs through again. Like Namaste, like the divine in me recognizes the divine in you, whereas the corrupt Sahasrara is, in that super ego inflated state. Or the
Mm.
heart chakra that's open and clear is feeling their emotions, and the heart has a stronger electromagnetic field than the mind. So it's able to reach out and feel more. Again, that's also why as a shaman, it's important that I eat the way I do to foster as much compassion and empathy as possible. But if the heart chakra also isn't properly tempered by the third eye, which is going to be the seat of reason and logic and understanding the psychic abilities, then I could just be a gushy fool who's just crying like a Romeo figure who's going to kill himself because of his emotions, just doesn't have a
Mm.
block on things. Conversely, if the third eye is, you know, toxic and muddied or too overpowered in contrast to the heart chakra, one could be extremely logical like Spock and not have any compassion or capability for emotion at all. So again, that's what I said too. Like as far as balance, like each person's going to be different every single day and through different times of their life.
Mm.
And I've already gone over before, so, humming, great way, eating for your chakras, essential oils, topically dispersed in the air or in like a bath. Music, whether you're listening to it, drumming it yourself, fields. There's so many different ways to go about rectifying it. But, every and you don't have to be grounded. I mean, my first it's just it's advisable if you want to have success in the 3D plane. If you don't, which not everyone does, then
Mm.
go for it. Avoid the red foods and just eat, purple fruits, high frequency tropical fruits, and you'll be, again, like, you'll be in a psychedelic experience of life, but you're also not going to be that stable, so because you're not that grounded. You have the potential for faster growth, but the ride's going to be a lot faster. So just be ready for that. Just like the stone moldavite, like, it's going to open you up to greater levels of transformation, but it does have to unground you to move you somewhere else faster.
Mm.
So just be aware of that. Like, there's pros and cons to everything. Like,
Interesting.
the
Yeah.
person that just stays in their root chakra their whole life, you know, has stability and they have consistency, but they also might not make as much spiritual growth in one incarnation as someone who says, fuck it, like, let's just, like, I surrender and let's see how far we can go as quickly as possible. Different paths for
Yeah.
different folks.
Yeah, that sounds like a topic for a whole other full episode there. But maybe I just want to touch on it a little bit because I feel like I've had that um, maybe choice or dichotomy in the back of my mind quite often through my life. It's like there's this visual of the tree and you have the roots growing deep so that the branches can grow high. It's like roots to hell and branches to heaven, I think you've said to me at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, cool. So that's more like grounded. And then you can grow into like a bigger tree over time and like think of like a redwood. And like those are huge, right? And like very stable and solid. And maybe equating that with like you're saying on the 3D plane, success and wealth and a big home and X, Y, and Z material things. So I was like, okay, I can see the value in that, but also like, and maybe it's because I'm an air sign as well. It's like I don't like the thought of being stuck in one place, like staying where I was planted or where my seed germinated or whatnot, like lift off and then just get blown away by the wind to somewhere new and exciting and whatnot. So yeah, I guess I don't necessarily know where where I'm going with that, but perhaps like that plays in to the chakras and which ones are maybe more prevalent in my system at the different phases of my life, where that more grounded in one place would be advantageous versus having the freedom or the ability to be transported elsewhere might be more prevalent.
This also ties in really well with, for a future episode, as far as zodiacs and astrology or human design, because we
Mm,
all have our individual transits through different planets and our own astrology. Like, for example, even though I'm a Sagittarius, I have times in life where I have more Scorpio energy present, or I have more Venus energy present. Again, even though you're a Libra, there's gonna be times where you have to go into Pluto, whether, because if the transit of Pluto, which is like 390 years long for a full transit, which the last time that Pluto, like, side note, the United States is dying because Pluto came in its return like a couple of years ago. So just like Rome, we're dying, we just don't know it yet, which is fine. But some people, Pluto is such a long transit, for charts, again, it's at the very outer the edge of the solar system, that it could pass for several generations, within, or for your incarnations, depending when you're incarnating. And if you happen to be the one that has to deal with this, you're the one that has to deal with the underworld and Hades and darkness and death and all those sorts of things. Whereas, someone else might have their incarnation. I don't know the exact time span for Jupiter, but that has correlated with a lot of abundance and bounty and material wealth and luck. Well, if their astro chart is just during their lifespan or when they're alive, between 27 and 33, if it's really heavy in their chart, they're going to have a different experience then. So your
mm,
27 to 33 period of life, if you had, someone else, again, same age as you, but their astro is different than yours, where they were born, all those different factors that play, neutrinos, which I think I've touched on before from human design, in terms of like where the stars were imprinting you and, again, programming your overlay before you were even born.
mm.
So going back to the chakras, these have a direct, you know, and there's more than one way to skin a cat, and there's more than one way to see how the universe is playing out for himself. And again, from a neuroscientific standpoint, they'll say, well, you simply, as a child, you were developing your sense of self. Whereas from the shaman, we could say from ages 1 through 7, you were developing your root chakra. From ages
Mm,
7 through 14, you were developing your sacral, and vice
mm,
versa. And again, multiple things can be true at once.
right. Interesting. Yeah, a lot of cool things we could dive into there in the future, I'm sure. Especially on astrology and human design and things like that. So you mentioned eating a few times, and I think the kind of Cliff Notes version of it is like the color of the food is corresponding with the color of the chakra, and thus will help to strengthen it. Is that the idea?
Correct. Just going back to the morphic fields from last week, for the 12-year-old trying to resonate with the military field, it's going to take her
Yeah.
a lot longer. If you are weak in your throat chakra, you're going to need a significantly lot more blueberries and blue corn or butterfly pea powder or peppermint oil to strengthen it or get to a certain level of someone who's been eating in those chakras, or again, even just wearing those colors for a longer
Mm,
period of time. So again, you're seeking to, increase the intensity of that chakra. But again, there's only so many things you can eat and get energies you can integrate at any given time. And as you strengthen one chakra, it can throw the other ones out of balance. So this is where,
mm,
again, it's also, when I work on people as well, this is the difference between healing and curing. Because healing, we are addressing the root issues. And we're going, it's like, okay, you're coming to me for interior delt pain. But I know that if I just dig my spoon into someone's anterior delt, I'm not going to fix it. I know I need to go to the rotator cuff. I know I need to check out their elbow. I need to check out their wrist. I might even need to check out their hips, because it's upstream and downstream things that are causing the problem to manifest here. So if someone's heart chakra is weak, well, it could just be because their throat chakra, and they're like, well, Nobu, I eat tons of salad and I practice gratitude every day and I do this and I do that. That's fine. But if the throat chakra and the solar plexus, the two chakras adjacent, are completely toxic or have cords or other things going on, then it's, again, looking at the body, mind, and spirit as a whole system and interconnected, and not just fixating and honing in on like the symptom and what's causing issues right now.
mm, Yeah, that makes sense. Like the holistic approach, other than I think we've talked about the traditional medical system a lot in that regard too. Is like you have these specialists, like, oh, I'm a foot guy, I'm a foot doctor. It's like,
I'm
well,
I'm
there's
a
the
root
entire rest of
chakra
the body.
shaman.
Yeah.
I
You got to get a
only
referral.
deal I only deal with root chakras, and if you got third eye issues, get the fuck out of my office. You see how
Yeah, yeah,
silly that sounds?
right. Yeah, and you got to get a referral from a general practitioner and come see me, otherwise you don't get
Yeah.
reimbursed. Yeah. um, uh, I missed it when you mentioned your necklace was good for your throat chakra because you said you wear like maybe a particular stone on there. Is that
Oh,
just
I
wanted
wasn't
to double
referencing a
back?
particular stone. It's just that, so it's not completely around the throat, but it's around the throat and the heart chakra to some extent. But again, if you imagine it, just again, it's wrapping around the chakra completely. Even though again, it's wrapping around the throat, the lymph glands, and that whatever comes in is getting filtered through the energy of my necklace, and whatever comes out is getting filtered. Whatever's gonna come out of my heart, my solar plexus, lower chakras, up out of my voice through that energy. So again, how you take in energy, and this is also like jewelry in any capacity has effects. So like whatever I put in my hands going up my body is going to get affected by the silver, onyx, and titanium and magnets on me. And the same with any energy that comes out of me is going to get then filtered through those different fields, right?
Mm,
So now like it's not just the hand of Nobu, it's the hand of Nobu, onyx, silver, titanium, and magnets. So, and then whatever clothing is also why different, whether it be monks in Buddhism or sadhanas in yoga, why they wear different colors as well, because it affects their chakras and their energy centers. So
mm,
black, and this is also why black is one of the hardest colors to wear for the spiritual seeker, because you're absorbing the most.
mm,
JT, I hate my It's 8:30, and I got a client I need to do an intake with.
All good. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next time. Take care, everyone. Thanks, everyone.